I met a gypsy.
The last few years of Marquez and some of the crashes that guy had. I mean, there's like a few things to think about. One is just how savage Marquez is to get back on that horse. And two is just like, how could they not improve? Like,
Well,
how could they not get better?
You absolutely hit on a very critical point, and this is, I mean, Marc Marquez is an extraordinary talent, does amazing things, but I look at that situation a lot different than most. First of all, if I was involved in that team, if my rider's crashing 6 times a year, I'm heavily concerned because every time your rider hits the ground, there's a risk of not getting up. Marquez was crashing 25, 30 times a year. And for that whole operation, sitting there watching this guy destroy his life, I'm thinking this is the ultimate tragedy. And everyone else is talking about, this guy walks is like just a miracle with shoes on. And I said, no, he's not. He's a human being. And I was concerned about all that. And I actually have to question perhaps his ability. He's an extraordinary talent and can ride anything, beyond his capability. But the question would be is, what are his development skills? Because I know if I fall down, I want to know why and figure it out. But to keep crashing like that and to go on year after year, it leads me to believe that he doesn't know really what's wrong or what's causing that. Because if it's not that, then clearly he couldn't articulate it to his engineers. But trust me, I'd be articulating it to the engineers with a size 12 boot. If I was hitting the ground that much, and I knew it was a matter of time. It's a matter of time. You can't keep rolling the dice like that. I just thought that was even though he won all those championships, to me it was a tragedy. Because it was watching a guy literally destroy his life. And I knew one of these days he's going to hit the ground and he wasn't going to get back up. And sure enough, when he did his arm in, it set him back. And who's to say, if he's truly fully recovered from that and how much that could be hindering him today.
Well, even the impact just to his brain. Like he's had his fucking retina detach. Multiple times.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So when you say, this guy's a savage, well, I mean, anybody can just hurt themselves. I mean, that's not clever. And that's, when I think about a guy like Eddie was smart because he knew, like Mark should have, some of those times, he should have just backed that thing down, and took second or took third. But no, he's gonna give it everything it has, and he ends up, a lot of times on the ground, but like you say, you can't crash that much. You cannot. It's impossible. It's gonna catch up with you, and it did.
Yeah, I just wonder if, to even be in the picture, to even be in the ballpark, he just had to push that bike to such a crazy razor's edge, especially with how dialed in the Ducatis were. And, so it's like you've got this guy with this incredible talent that just has an ability of, he's a very special athlete. And then he's got these other guys that are great on bikes as well.
Well, see, but the issue didn't start when everything went down the drain. The issue started when he was winning world championships because he's crashing too much. And that's where they kept coming back with the same tool. That to me that's insanity. I mean, somebody should be fired. You can't, or you got to take care of the rider. We already have a shelf life to begin with, but it's just like, I'm telling you, if you hit the ground that many times, it's inevitable. And he was able to get away with some of it, for quite a long period of time, which, I always say, I know he has a massive skill set, but you got to touch wood because when you're off of that thing, you just don't know when the severity of perhaps the toll it's going to take on you. But I'm just astonished that the people involved in that team could stand there and watch that, and they're all like clapping. He won, but he crashed 6 times that weekend. Yeah, I would leave there. I would be back at that factory. I would be pounding the door down because we're not going to the next race with the same tool. This guy's going to kill himself. Like, well, we got to figure this out. Well, was he not trying to figure it out? Or was it everybody else just sort of not at that level yet that he could get away with it? You know, but the bottom line is you can't have somebody going down that much, you know, that many times. Oh, I mean, I'd seen him sometimes you crash 6-7 times in a weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insanity in my opinion. It's insanity. And that's just looking for, you know, for something, you know, bad to happen.
Oh, and I remember like the Mandalika one was just like when he was coming around that right-hand sweeper and the thing just let go and spat him. Oh, I was watching that session live and I just went, fuck, like how many hits can this guy take? Yeah. Like, you know, and yeah, on the one hand, you got to respect the guy's drive, but like on the other hand, fuck.
Yeah, the other hand, you have to ask yourself what the hell's going on over there.
Okay,
well, who's looking after this guy? But to stand there and, you know, I'm going to put it on all of them. I mean, Mark, all of his staff, the engineers, I mean, they're all there and they're all watching this happen. I mean, who's the one that's saying, hey, enough of this?
Mark, eventually.
Well, I know, but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And see, in the end, it ended, you know, yeah, people talk about his championships, but now that whole thing's sort of been severed.
Oh, yeah. It's tainted a little bit.
Yeah, it's tainted, and his career didn't end the way, he thought,
should have.
Yeah, he should have been a Honda rider and retired in that. But like you said, I just thought it was a tragedy for all those people to stand there and watch all this unfold like this. I know if I would have been there, it would have never happened. I mean, I would have been like, we got to figure this out. And if I'd had to get on the bike to ride it to help him sort it out, I would have. That sort of a thing. Because I wasn't going to, I'm not going to let my rider kill himself if he doesn't know what's wrong with the bike. You know, we have to figure this out. And, like I said, eventually it caught up with him.
What do you make of just the crashes in general? I mean, like, it's not just Mark. And I mean, Mark was, like, he was having big crashes and a lot of them. But, you watch the races nowadays and you think about, like, Casey's era and Valentino's era. Like, guys just weren't crashing in the same way. It's like, it's almost like, do these guys want to win the championship? Like, do they want to win these things? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah, but like you said, what's interesting about MotoGP today is just when I saw those bikes in Coda and you see all the mechanisms and the buttons and the ride height devices and all this activity going on, it at least it kind of, I left there with like, now I understand why everybody's sort of taking the same lines, braking in the same point, but things that are really mind-boggling is you don't really see slipstreaming much, because you can't stay behind the guy because the air is really bad and it overheats the front tire. And so it's not the traditional get on a long straight, get the good drive and slipstream, or at least get up beside the guy where you could outbrake him. And it just doesn't work. It's more like Formula One.
Yeah, and it's the same problem that Formula One has.
So, yeah, a lot of, like you say, different. It's just guys are crashing different because they're basically riding bikes like you'd drive a car.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.